I will probably drop off as soon as your meeting, shortly after your meeting start. I think Jeremy has it handled.
Okay, good. All right. Nice to see you.
Yes, all of you too.
All right, whenever you're ready.
All right. I'd like to call the Community Media Access Committee meeting to order. And I'll start out by doing a roll call. Jeremy, do you do that or do it? You're muted.
I'll do that just a second. Here we go. Okay, Member DeMatthew.
Present.
Member Lewis. Absent. Member Kenny.
Present.
Member Newton. Please unmute yourself so that we can hear. Okay. Member Luxiegel.
Present.
Member Stapleton Gray.
Present.
Chair Winkelstein.
Present.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And the next item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes? Yes?
Yes.
Any comments or changes or edits, complaints, praises, whatever?
Well done.
Yeah, well done. Good. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I like to hear. Any thoughts about it? Additions? Everybody's happy with them? They're pretty thorough, I have to say. Somebody was doing a lot of typing. So I guess I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Just before then, Julie and no, I guess it's just to Julie and me. I got a text from Jeremy saying he hasn't got a link.
From Julian?
Sorry, from Julian, saying I shot a text to Jeremy. Is there a Zoom link I missed?
Okay. So Jeremy,
I can resend it, or he can join if he happens to be watching right now. He can join via the public, and then I can promote him up to a panelist. But I'll resend that link right now.
can you just tell him that, Ross?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right, and second?
Second.
There was like a tie there, like an echo. I don't know.
Second.
All right. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments before we vote? No? All right. Jeremy, roll call.
Okay. Member DeMatthew.
Aye.
Member Lewis. Okay. Member Kenny.
Aye.
Member Newton. Member Luxiegel.
Aye.
Member Stapleton Gray.
Aye.
Chair Winkelstein?
Aye. That passes. The next item on the agenda is,
Actually, Chair, I might recommend that we get a volunteer for this meeting's minutes at this
right,
point.
and I even had a note about that and I still forgot. All right, any volunteers to do the minutes for this meeting? Don't get too excited. Like, whoa, look at that. You know what's going to happen to you. That's fantastic. We have a volunteer. Committee member DeMatthew is going to take the minutes. All right, great. Thanks, Jeremy, for that reminder. And actually, at what point I would like our newest committee member to have a chance to, whoop, lost him again. When he's here back, like him to have a chance to just say a few words like we did. And when would I squeeze that in? After the public comment, maybe?
We could do that during announcements. That would be fine.
Okay, all right. So the next, welcome back. So the next item is public comment for persons desiring to address the committee on an item that is not on the agenda. And you have up to 3 minutes, although we'll be flexible. And we can't really discuss it if it's not on the agenda because of the Brown Act. So do we have any members of the public who are here and wanting to speak?
I don't see any raised hands at this moment.
Okay. All right. So I'll close the public comment and then we'll go to announcements, and we'll start actually with committee member Newton, right? Is that, no. Is that his last, is that, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, so are there two, what's Julian's last name?
Lewis.
Oh, Lewis. I get Newton and Lewis mixed up. I was thinking, do you have the same last name? That's just too confusing. Okay, yes. Would you like to just say a couple words about just when we met last time, the newest members introduced themselves, just said their name, and then a little bit of why are they interested in, just so people have an idea of who you are. Committee member Newton, would you be willing to do that?
Looks like his internet may have frozen. Perhaps if member Newton can hear right now, maybe he'll be able to call in on the phone number.
Oh, there you are. Are you back? You suck. Yes. Speak. No. I think you're still muted. Can you unmute yourself? Ah,
Okay.
Perfect. Great. Okay.
Anyway, my name is Charles Newton, and I have lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for over 50 years, and I love it here. The reason why I wanted to join this wonderful committee is because I have been all over the world and visited some of the most wonderful cultural museums. And besides that, I have seen the evolution of technology. Most of my life was spent in Silicon Valley. So I have personally worked with technology from video conferencing when it started to satellite communications to setting up stages on TV and on and on. So it's, again, I saw the internet from before it was created, and I'm excited to contribute as much as I can to the arts. And I see some other members I've already met. And I'm excited. I love Albany and I love the area, and I love you personally. I also have 4 granddaughters and one that lives here, my first grandson. And so I look forward to sharing as much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That's great. We have quite a range of experiences. It's nice.
I want to add one more comment, if I may. I'm also working with the University of California, San Francisco on a 2-year program that's sponsored by Mr. Bill Gates, and to help with the COVID-19. And so whatever information you need on that area, I'd be happy to share it with you. And we need more volunteers, and it's an incredible organization. As you know, University of California, San Francisco is a great institution.
Working on COVID-19. Okay, great. What University of California, San Francisco, that's different from University of San Francisco, and that's different from City College, and that's different from San Francisco State. So what is University of California, San Francisco?
University of California, basically, it's Berkeley in San Francisco, but it's the medical division.
Oh, okay. So like the people that are doing a double major, public health and UCSF, that's the medical. Okay, all right, great. Thank you for explaining that. All right. Committee members Stapleton Gray.
Just wanted to say, I worked for a year at UCOP. UCSF is one of the 10 now UCs. It's the only one that doesn't have an undergraduate program. So it has graduate programs focused on medical, it's got a hospital, et cetera. But it's one of the 10 UCs all under that same charter, along with Cal, et cetera.
Okay, that helps because I just get really confused with especially the University of San Francisco and San Francisco State. It took me a long time to separate those two. So now somebody's throwing a new one at me. Not a new one because I already knew about it. I know that there's somebody, Coco Auerswald, who works there, who is working on youth homelessness. So I've met her. So I knew about it. I just didn't get that it was a university. I knew it was UC, but I didn't realize that meant UC. So thank you for explaining that. All right. So announcements, member announcements, reports, and updates of status. So I was wondering if this would be a good place for our subcommittees to report back. All right. So we had 2 subcommittees meet, and we have two people who are chairing those committees. So who would like to go first? There's committee member DeMatthew and there's committee member Stapleton Gray. Both of them were chairs of these subcommittees. One of you want to volunteer to go first? You want me to volunteer you? Okay. Yes, go.
Sorry, I was just checking that also. You were mentioning both of us members in separate committees.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Just making sure that I'm in the right committee. Awesome. So for our committee, which we are still a little unsure about the title, but basically digital and print media. So we met and talked about first focusing on a flyer that would be about the next city council meeting. And I volunteered to make that flyer since I do digital design work and artwork. And actually I've met member Newton at Umami Interiors. And I don't know if you remember member Newton, we talked about my artworks. I don't know if you recognize me without my mask. But you shared your info with me. So a small world, funny to come across you again. So we talked about that, and I sadly didn't get a first draft of that done yet. So I was hoping to have that ready for this meeting, but it's been a crazy month, so I didn't have that ready, but it should be ready soon. And this way we can talk about altogether the content of that flyer, since I want to fact check with you anyways, to make sure we know for sure. We wanted to mention, since the next meeting is supposedly about the sugar tax and how we want to use the money from that tax, this way we can we can talk about it with Jeremy and fact check that. So that would be great if we could talk about that. And then another part of our conversation was also about figuring out with the high school, Albany High School, maybe creating some kind of like volunteer or extra credit system. And I also volunteered to be the high school liaison for that, and with help from member Kenny, who's done that in the past. So that's also in the works. And we also wanted to ask Jeremy if we could have any kind of information about what members of our community don't have access to the internet. so that we can kind of figure out what spaces would be most helpful to have printed media, and what spaces are better for digital. And also wanting to look into, uh, let's see, I'm just checking my notes here. Um, how to tap into other points of our conversation were how to tap into the Albany parent community, so parents of children's in schools, and just getting more people involved, and we discussed where we want to post flyers, or maybe even a mural somewhere, and just get more of a diverse group involved. And then other proposals were also, oh, well, this is more to come back to our flyer idea. I have more specifics on that, but maybe I'll pause and just see if member Winkelstein, if you approve of that rundown, or if you have any other, or member Kenny, if you have anything else you'd want to add.
Yeah, Member Kenny, I was going to see if you wanted to, if you'd like to add anything since you were there.
Yes, I think the one of the things we talked about is trying to develop a system to figure out priority items that are coming up in public meetings that should be highlighted with a poster or some other media information. And I'm not sure if we resolved that or not, but there has to be some way to figure out what's important to be noticed.
One of the things I would suggest is maybe invite me to your next subcommittee meeting, and I can give you a lot of these answers. For example, on the city calendar, one of the first lines on every calendar item for public meetings is a highlight of kind of reader-friendly items that will be up for discussion, and perhaps we can work with our staff liaisons to better prepare that language so it's easy to grab and select those priority items. Usually it's a list of everything, but perhaps there's an easier way that we list the top 3 first, something like that.
I think we also talked about contacting the other advisory committees to ask them if they have priority items that they think should be publicly notified.
That's great. Thank you. So Jeremy, we would just tell you we were going to meet and then see if we could coordinate. In this case, this subcommittee met in person and the other one met through Zoom. So either one would work for you, or you prefer Zoom?
Zoom probably would be easier. You know, I'm not in Albany all the time, and trying to coordinate when I'd be in Albany when somebody is available to meet with me in person. It's probably just easier that way.
Okay. All right, great. That's really good to know. We had no idea we could invite you. Or I didn't know anyway.
Yeah,
I didn't know either. I think with the Brown Act, we're always a bit more cautious, but
you know, as we get into the actual work and these things, you know, I would also suggest that the things you're talking about can be more fully developed in the work plan, because as you know, as the committee presents this type of information to council, likely it will go to them to say, yeah, this is a good idea. Let's have staff figure out a way for this to happen. Right, that would likely be the path of these type of directives. One of the things about making flyers, obviously, the city has some graphic standards and some things like that you know we would have to figure out kind of what is the process to maintain kind of like the branding and the kind of the consistency in city messaging, but also being fast, you know, with like some, you know, volunteer response to make this happen out in the community where we're limited in what we're able to do.
Yeah, actually, on that topic, we were also wondering, so about the imaging standards, all that, and then also what access to printing do we have? Do we have a certain amount of flyers that we can print out or anything?
That would be up for council to decide and kind of help us, you know, figure out, you know, if there was some initiative that was kind of proposed by CMAC, you know, how that would happen and kind of what those thresholds would be. Yeah, but I'm sure we could figure that out. But you know, there's nothing set right currently.
Okay, so to move forward with that, would we have to one of us attend a city council meeting and ask that question, or?
No, this is something that we should add to the work plan in terms of, you know, a general way of notifying people through print media and then work those details out.
Okay, thank you.
So if it did get added to the work plan and then they approved it, then the city staff would figure it out, but the city staff, I'm trying to think of a tactful way of saying this. So I just won't say that. I'll say something else. What if the city staff isn't, this is not one of their strengths, is using non-digital media? Would they then ask us for advice, or could we offer them advice in advance, or some of our preferences, so that it didn't turn into kind of what it is now? Which, I mean, can we give a lot of details to make sure that it?
I would suggest putting that into the work plan, like specifically how the committee would envision that for the council to discuss. Yeah, I mean, obviously you see how we're limited in our staffing and ability to do a number of communications. That's why this committee has been tasked with that. So it'd be kind of up to the subcommittee to come up with some ideas, perhaps, you know, work with me to, maybe I can make some, you know, give some suggestions of what might be able to work, and then add this to the work plan.
Great, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, I just want to add that the other thing that came up at the subcommittee meeting is that when you're on Zoom, you have no idea how tall people are. So we were all like surprised by the height of the different people in this. Well, some of us were surprised. I already knew how tall Jack is, and he already knew how short I am. So that was kind of an interesting thought, that we don't know how tall people are when you're on Zoom. Like, you're all the same height, really, in theory. All right, anyway, I know that's not in the, all right, I'll go on. Okay, the other subcommittee. Is there anything else you want to add, Jack, or, yeah?
I just had a question for Jeremy, just for my own information. Does the city have a public information officer, or is there someone who is assigned to do press releases or those kind of notifications?
Not currently. There's not a but the public specifically the public information officer duties are now being handled by the assistant city manager, Isabel Leduc, who is also the recreation director. So a lot of what I would be doing in kind of my role in communications would be helping doing that. So it's a shared experience, but we may have some stuff coming up, you know, with potentially in the future where some additional staff may be able to assist, but we don't currently have a public information officer who is doing that for us.
Because I was saying that could be a future goal, to attain a staff position like that could coordinate these things.
Yeah, so we could add that to the work plan too. Yeah, great. All right, any other comments about this subcommittee, or any questions?
I was taking notes while Member Kenny was talking, just for note taking. Could you repeat that last part you said, Member Kenny?
About a future, having a staff person, like a public information officer, that could be a future goal that we could recommend for the city as a way to coordinate these notices of priority items on city committees and the city council.
Thank you. Awesome.
Member Newton? Did you have a comment?
I like what Ms. Kenny said, and I support that. So that might fall under our umbrella and would be very helpful. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, so the other committee is what did we call it? The
Digital equity and economic development. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, I got another email from Julian saying he's not received any link, though he was going to be dropping off at 6:30 anyway. I don't know if it's going to a different email or whatever, but So he and I and Chair Winkelstein all met as the Digital Equity Economic Development, or DEED subcommittee, since it's got a handy acronym. I'll just read my minutes on this first. Discussed the issues to be addressed by DEED, which fell into two somewhat overlapping areas. And actually, it somewhat touches on what the other subcommittee met on: disparity in access, both to the internet and to informational resources absent internet access, and how to alleviate that. And then involvement of business in areas of interest to the CMAC, including use of media to promote interest in and awareness of commerce in Albany, and also to engage businesses in promoting other CMAC work. We all agreed that the subcommittee would benefit by a survey. So like the other subcommittee had thought, including both what access citizens and others in Albany have and what information they might need. Discussed other ways to gather information on that aside from a survey. So for example, the city has a lifeline access arrangement with Comcast. I don't know if the city itself then therefore knows how many people avail themselves of that in Albany. The library has access by Wi-Fi, presumably has at least aggregate logs of how many people are supporting in the course of a week. The school district, though, in my reaching out to Sarah Hinckley as chair of the school board, it sounds like AUSD has not done a survey of what access all of the families have, the degree to which they do or don't have technology, or if they do, to what extent it's accessible to any of the particular users. I mean, it could have a computer in the home, but since someone's got to work on it, it's not available for homework until 5 p.m., that sort of a thing. Also discussed other ways to provide information, forums, things like, say digital marquee or billboards, kiosk space. There are various places in Albany where you could reach people through various means of messaging, and thought to both include that in a survey, how could we best reach you, and perhaps use these various means to reach people in the course of doing a survey, including relying on Albany businesses, things like the Solano Stroll, which will be presumably, hopefully held this coming September again. But the focus was really on the two areas. One, access. Do people have access to the internet? If they don't have access to the internet, what other technologies or means might we reach them with information? And then to what extent could we engage business? I gave as an example in our meeting the case I had seen as a school board member where the Coachella Unified had an arrangement with the city where businesses in the city would provide Wi-Fi access to students in exchange for being promoted as such. So, you're a cafe, you've got access, you give access to students to get to the high school's network, and you get a sticker for the window, and the district is promoting you as a business that's kid-friendly or student-friendly for access. So ways in which we might collaborate between the commercial sector and the city and our committee.
Thank you. I'm trying to think because I thought Jillian was going to be here, so I just want to see if there's anything. Survey. Yeah, so I think Ross, you are member Stapleton Gray, you also made the point at the meeting that, and I guess you sort of covered that, but the internet access is not a panacea, and where do we have audiences? And you talked about Memorial Hall. You brought that up. You said.
From my time on the school board, it was readily apparent that we don't have a lot. Now, in a COVID era, this may not be a concern much anymore, but we really don't have large meeting spaces in the city. There's 300 seats in the quote unquote little theater at Albany High, which is the biggest theater at Albany High, and events being held in the community in Memorial Hall, if they're any larger than that, or in a gymnasium or multi-use room. We haven't got a lot of meeting space. We haven't got a lot of spaces where people congregate, other than, say, concerts and whatnot in Memorial Park. So reaching people with other means, like a kiosk or whatnot, is a little tougher. There's no natural gathering places much larger than pretty modest.
Right, thank you. And then I think another point that was brought up was that you were going to see if there was like a, and Jeremy actually may know the answer to this, if there's a CMAC equivalent in nearby cities, if there's something similar to what we're doing, and, you know, sort of what have they done, if they've, or what have other cities done, I guess. And that would sort of be an extension of a survey. That would be like a different, besides asking our community, where do you get information and what information do you want? What's the best way for you to get information would be also how are other cities handling this?
And I'd also mentioned there was a survey that happened during my time on the school board. It was, I think, a national level thing looking at digital access. So I'll try to go dig up when that last was. It was fairly detailed. I'm not sure how they got participation, but I know we were pushing for it when I was on the school board, that families would participate in something that I believe was handled as a federal technological survey. This would have been sometime prior to 2018.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest challenge for all of both subcommittees and for all of us is reaching the people we aren't reaching. Like that's like our huge challenge, right? Like we're going to ask people these questions. How do we do that? How do we find them if we already aren't finding them and they're already not knowing and not connected? So I know this came up last time too, but I think I'd really like to see that in the work plan, that we really are devoted to that. Member Newton. You're muted. Yes, got it.
First of all, I want to compliment your comments, and I support you there. My life in Albany area is about 7 years, and because my son bought his home here 7 years ago, I was still living in the city, San Francisco. So since then, I started to become active because I was visiting him frequently, and I participated and tried to get involved with the senior center because I'm, of course, a youngster like them. And the first year or two that I was interacting with them, there was internet access, and we received at least quarterly emails saying what's going on in the community. Then all of a sudden, everything stopped, regardless of the fact that I kept trying to interact with them. So some changes took place between the different presidents, but the first one I met was very proficient, et cetera, et cetera. I understand now this is 7 years ago. And of course, COVID is now, we're going to go second, third year now. So things have changed a lot. But just to try to get my vaccines, I expected more support from, senior center. And even though I called them, I talked to them, I had to go out of my way. My son finally assisted me, and I ended up going to Pleasanton, where I had a great experience. And even though they were giving the vaccines here. So then the second time I interacted with another young man that works at the senior center. He was extremely helpful. The next day he connected me, and I got the next schedule for the next vaccine. What I'm saying is that I would welcome the opportunity in the event you want me to pursue that. We need more communication to as many members of the Albany community. And the theme was brought up, I think, twice already. And there's no reason why, with the technology available, we should not be able to communicate, even with the COVID crisis, direct emails to the community here.
Great, thank you. Yes, good. Member Lex Siegel. Yes.
I just always want to ask who's going to be doing the communicating when the way is determined, and who's going to create that message. I don't expect anyone to answer that question, but that's the real question, I think.
That's a good point. What it seems like it fits in with Member Kenny's wanting us to put that maybe someday there would be a, what's it called?
Information officer.
Yeah. That's what we need. Or that would be a good use of the sugar sweetened tax, beverage tax, whatever it's called.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's a really good point. It's not enough to find out what people want to hear or how they want to hear it, but we have to know who's creating the message and what
Right.
the message says. Yeah, I think that's well taken point. Yes. All right. Any other comments before we move on to the sorry, I've got like 10 things in front of me. Onto the work plan, which flows right out of what we're just talking about, right? So Jeremy, when we talk about the work plan, never mind.
One other announcement is that since we last met, Naomi and I and Ellen Toomey were the sort of the Film Fest volunteers that work with Jeremy on that. We've been supplying him with information and possible budgets for the Albany Film Fest, and Albany. The Film Fest is a city event, so I don't know if Jeremy, you were going to mention anything about where we are with things, but we've been giving information to Jeremy, and I guess at some point you'll make a formal announcement about what's happening.
Yeah, I have that in my my kind of report to the committee for what's been going on. So,
all right.
So is this?
The other thing is that we didn't form a subcommittee last meeting regarding the section of the work plan about the Film Fest, but I said I would work on it, and Naomi and I combined on that and came up with some proposals. You'll see them in the work plan section.
Great. So we officially have a subcommittee on the Film Fest. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, not as we in the past did have a subcommittee for the Film Fest, but since one of the things that we as a city have been trying to clear up is perpetual subcommittees that are ongoing. Subcommittees are really supposed to be for a temporary period of time. And also we don't have any subcommittees for city events. So the kind of the long-term plan was to move Film Fest towards a volunteer, support for the city program, and kind of shifting kind of the bulk of the activity of Film Fest from CMAC to the volunteers. But of course, it's one of the main ways that residents get involved with the city and media communication, so it always will have a part, but just not a fully fleshed component. I think there's an appropriate way that it'll be part of the work plan, but not necessarily a responsibility of the committee.
I guess what I was saying is we were a subcommittee for the purposes of the work plan to report about the Film Fest.
Yeah, we can do that.
So a temporary group, so not a forever. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. So it passes muster. Okay. All right. So Jeremy, did you want to do your announcement now then about your announcement? Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, I just have a few things. I'll keep it brief. Obviously, KIOB is streaming. We continue to stream a lot of meetings, but right now we're looking towards moving back to in-person and maintaining virtual meetings at the same time. So that's kind of my task over these next several months. In kind of concurrent with our installation of new cameras in the council chambers, we're looking at a variety of options to be able for where and how, and kind of the parameters of bringing live public meetings back to Albany, but still maintaining the ability for the public to connect via virtual means through the Zoom webinar. So over these next few months, I'll be testing a variety of different applications, but it depends on a lot of things. It depends on what happens at the state level, what the governor decides in regard to the Brown Act and being able to have public meetings in virtual spaces, or whether that will stop and everything goes live again. But I think there's a number of things that we've learned about public meetings and the webinar platform, and we've seen an uptick in participation from a variety of different people, and I think that's important to keep going. And I also think that we have, like Ross was saying, some space limitations in terms of large spaces that can accommodate a crowd of people in addition to the public meeting, and how do we kind of create equity, and if we have room capacity, how do we decide who is able to attend in-person meetings. You know, if there's a room capacity, if say there's 10 people of staff and a meeting body and the advisory body, and the room can safely accommodate a certain number of people, you know, what do we do with the other people who want to attend? So trying to make sure that we think through all of those details before we implement our plan. But we're also looking at all options. You know, we're looking at the community center as a possible location for in-person meetings because there's more space and more airflow. Looking at council chambers, and then kind of looking at all of our other facilities so that staff, if they're coming back in person and providing in-person services at our facilities, how are they able to interface with the public? So that's a big part of what I'll be doing over these next 3 or 4 months as we look towards the summer and the fall of things changing. It all is kind of predicated on what the governor in his statement about everything being open on June 15th, even though we don't have any specific dates as yet. That's, you know, and we haven't made any specific announcements out to the public, but that is what we're working on kind of on a technical level behind the scenes. The Film Fest has been doing monthly meetings in conjunction, or meetings, events in conjunction with the Albany Library. We had a couple of successful events where we did film screenings online through the webinar platform and had good attendance, and I think they were fun, worthwhile events, and we're looking at some others coming up in the future. This last 2 weeks we've been doing city budgets and proposing kind of what is kind of on the horizon for Film Fest and special events and activities. There's been, you know, a deprioritization of public special events just because of COVID and what we're going to bring back first. And so Film Fest kind of falls in line with that. So we put some preliminary numbers in the budget for a virtual event coming up, and then in-person event should things change for the following year. We're still kind of working out those details, and it really depends on what council does with the budget. The city's been in a deficit for a while, so we're, you know, not the priority items are coming back in person, essential city services, and the public events like Music in the Park or 4th of July, Dinner with Albany, Film Fest kind of all fall into that same category of things that likely will wait until, one, it's safe to do in-person events, and then also kind of be rolled out with some thought to how the city does special events. That's kind of, you know, what we're looking at now. So, but we're planning on continuing with monthly Film Fest events as much as the library is able to work with us on that. That's all I have to say. Like Jack said, you know, I've been talking with Jack and Naomi and Ellen about what some options are. So there's a few different things, but I would suggest when the budget is being presented to the city council, that might be a time to come in during public comment and talk about Film Fest, or, you know, what it means, or, you know, why, what the committee would like to see, or as we put into the work plan, how that would happen. And lastly, a big change that's happening right now is we're moving from Granicus to PrimeGov, which is a service that does all of the agendas and reports for advisory bodies, city council, and it interfaces directly with our live stream of the public meeting. So that's moving forward. I'm working on that project, and we plan to roll that out in July or August. So it's a different platform for presenting meetings to the public, and it has a number of interesting features. And once we get closer to kind of the rollout, I'll do a presentation of what you can expect to see, but it'll be easier for us to manage on the back end, but it creates an entirely new workflow for city staff to manage agenda creation and distribution, and allows for a different way for the public to access time-stamped meetings in a kind of an easier format, in my opinion. So that's it for now. Does anybody have any questions? Jack?
You mentioned the budget hearings are going to be coming up that will affect the Film Fest. So Can you notify us when those are going to happen so we
Yeah.
know?
Those that'll be in May. It'll be probably the second meeting in May where the council will look at the budget, and there'll be a proposed budget that'll be presented that everybody will have access to, so you can actually see the numbers. After we submit, from our end, then it goes to finance, and then it all kind of gets worked through. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as long as we get a heads up, that's great.
I have just a couple questions. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Mine's just a short one. I was just wondering if the goal for future meetings is to have a hybrid of in-person and virtual. Is that what's in the works?
I'm looking at that. Technically, there's some challenges to make that happen given the audiovisual structure in our facilities. So I'm kind of preparing for all in person. Obviously, we can do all virtual, and trying to merge those two so I can be ready for whatever the state says we are obligated to do.
Great. That was actually sort of half of my question too, was about that. And you're saying that the state was saying there could be some issue with the Brown Act about that. I didn't understand that part of it.
The Brown Act. The Brown Act was changed temporarily in order to allow for virtual meetings. There are a lot of specifics for the Brown Act in terms of public notification, locations, and the in-person nature of public meetings, and that was temporarily suspended. So there's a few bills in the state legislature to make some changes. I can send you some links for what the proposed changes could be. I think Ann Sue, our city clerk, has that information, but something will need to be changed permanently, or that lift of in-person meetings being a requirement will have to be continued for a period of time. So it's all temporary right now. The Brown Act, that portion of the Brown Act is suspended for the pandemic, and that will need to change in order to allow us to come back in person or be in person and not be virtual.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is just a real simple one is, have you, in terms of the numbers of people that have been attending both the Film Fest and the public meetings, have you seen a change in the numbers, i.e. fewer people, more people? I'm just curious what the virtual, having it be available virtually, if it was affecting the attendance in both city meetings and at the Film Fest.
I think we see, I'm at all or most of the meetings prior to the pandemic in person. I've seen kind of the cast of characters that attend all of our meetings. There have been new people, right? New people that haven't participated before. I think issues that people are passionate about tend to drive turnout. So the school district meetings, we'll have 200, 300, 400, people in attendance, either in the webinar or in the live stream of the virtual. Typically, it's less than that for city meetings, unless there is a kind of a high stakes agenda item. But yeah, I say that we've had more new people attending on a regular basis, as opposed to the same people who have kind of typically attended in the past in person. So in that, it's expanding, but we still, for most advisory body meetings, I think we've seen an uptick in participation at some level. But typically it's, 15 to 35 people in a meeting, or we'll have meetings like this for a committee that, we have 1 or 2 people in attendance. That we've seen that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, we can't tell as the audience at a city council meeting unless somebody tells me.
Actually, we do enable that, so everybody should be able to see the participant count for all of our meetings at this point.
Okay. It didn't used to be true, so I guess maybe it's changed. All right, great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions about these? So, all right, so we should move on to the main thing that we're supposed to be talking about, which is the community work plan. And did everyone get a chance to look at the draft that Jeremy sent out? The one that's full of empty boxes, waiting for us to fill them in. I just had a comment about the language on the last page, the relation to City Council strategic plan. I have some recommended changes to the language there, and is that something that we would discuss now? I mean, I could tell it's under engage our diverse community. There's a sentence, public access television allows ordinary citizens. I don't know what that is. So I don't know what an ordinary citizen is. So I would recommend changing that to community members, take out citizen, because I think it kind of can be scary to some people to see the word citizen, and then I don't know what ordinary is. And then the other thing is it's a great opportunity for individuals, and it says to take a stand on current issues. And I try not to use language like stand and step and stuff like that. So I would recommend maybe putting the word position in there, take a position, or maybe some other word that isn't ableist. So anyway, those were just my two thoughts. They're minor little things.
So those, since this is a couple things, the important part is that whatever is in the work plan relates to the City of Albany's strategic plan. That language specifically does not need to be included in the actual draft of the work plan. It was kind of copied over and from before, and copied over from before, copied over from before, and and taking a closer look at everybody else's, every other committee and commission's work plan, I'm shifting the format to be more in line with all of that. So even though that language is there, the committee could simply delete that and make sure that the actual items are in line with the strategic plan. This is more of a worksheet for the committee to use that will take that information, and I'll compile it into a final draft that we'll look at the next meeting.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Yes.
Just to double check, so you said that any committee member can add into this work plan, right?
So what we could do, Chair, is if you wanted to share your screen and just bring that document up, could type those changes in real time and just add those in as you go through. Well, I think you're muted. Let's see.
Sorry. I just want to see if I have it readily available. I think I do, but let me just double check. I did have it. I seem to have just closed it. All right, it'll take me a second to find it.
Another option, Member DeMatthew, I could share it with you if you wanted to open it up, and then since you're an expert on typing.
Sure, I can share I have it open right now, so I can share my screen right now. Is that enabled? Okay, here we go. Can everyone see okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I can just add in for each item, for example, with when we were talking about the printed media, would I just give that? Okay, so I would write the title under this section, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I could do awesome. So like accessibility to internet users. for example. And if anyone has an idea, I don't know how formatting wise, sorry, it's not aligned.
Don't
but-
worry about the formatting.
Okay.
I'll take this. This is, like I said, this is a worksheet. The item most likely will be, and we could add more items after this. This is more for the committee's kind of use, and then the items will be what's part of the work plan.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. This is great. Now I feel comfortable. I know that I can write on this. So great. Thanks. Do we want to go through a few more items? We could just title them maybe before we leave and forget since we're here. Maybe. I don't know if we have time in the agenda. Let me know if we should move on.
Since we're getting close to 7, there'll probably need to be a motion to extend.
Okay, then that's fine. I'll just stop sharing my screen then. Thank you. Do I need to? Okay, it says it's saved. Okay, I'll just stop. Thank you.
But we could do that. We could do a motion to extend, right? Because we want to get some items in those boxes. So-
Correct. Yeah, the goal for tonight will be to fill out, even though there's 5 items listed, there could be more, but it'll be in order of priority. So what I would suggest is this could be the committee's discussion time. It would be best to come up with whatever those actual items are, kind of flesh out the ideas. Then the subcommittees can go back and then and look at each one of these items and come back in the next minute. And the next meeting, I'll have it in the actual draft format, and then the committee as a whole can finalize that work plan.
Okay, so we just need a motion to extend the time to say 7:30, just to play it safe. Is there a motion to do that? Nobody wants to stay till 7:30.
Sure, I'll make a motion to extend the meeting to 7:30.
Okay, great. A second? No? Yes, okay. Member Newton, okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend the time. We don't have to stay till, it doesn't have to last till 7:30, but this gives us the option of being that long rather than making a motion to go to 7:12, and then standing another 5 and then another 5. It seems more efficient this way. We can just work quickly. All right, any comments before we take a vote? All right, Jeremy?
Okay, Member DeMatthew?
All right, I'll share my screen again.
Oh,
And,
yeah, this is for the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Member Lewis? Member Kenny?
Aye.
Member Newton? Member Lux Siegel?
Aye.
Member Stapleton Gray?
Aye.
Great, the motion passes. All right, so now we can go back to working on this and let's get those items. Maybe if we just get the items in there first, and then we can decide the order that we want to put them in. But first, just kind of the things we've talked about tonight or other things that you think, for example, there was something else that, the survey. I'd like to see the survey be in the work plan. And we could just put the items in there first, maybe then go back and do the pros and cons. Is that all right with everyone? Just to kind of get them listed. Okay, so other thoughts? What else would you like to see in there? Member Kenny?
I want one for keeping the film fest sustainable. And like I said, Naomi and I have already done the wording on that, and Jeremy has that.
Great. Okay, so let's get the list and then we'll go back and we can fill in what you've got.
Yeah.
That's great. Fantastic. Other ideas?
Member Newton, you're on mute.
may it be a new idea, or does it have to be something that's already in process?
No, it could be a new idea.
Okay. I think something that would be very beneficial, especially right now that we hope that the COVID is going to be overcome because of the vaccines, is health shows throughout the Albany community, from Memorial Park to the high schools, et cetera, et cetera. I think I can head a committee or, do whatever it takes to get sponsors to donate a lot of wholesome items that will help people heal from vitamins to whatever. And, just an idea.
So a health show would be where, like, sort of like a fair, like a health fair, would it be?
That's exactly what.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Other thoughts from the committee? I'm probably look back at the notes.
Maybe for item 5, since we had talked in our subcommittee about working with schools and other, sorry, actually, let me backtrack, working with other committees. So checking in what committees want to be heard more, or what they feel like they're missing from the community that can also help us. For example, when we're making our survey, just checking in and figuring out how do we communicate with other committees, and maybe we can be that liaison of communicating between different committees, and so that we know what different needs are. Member Winkelstein, does that sound good from what we had talked about?
Yeah, I was trying to think about how to word it. So I guess communication with city bodies. Is that what you're thinking in terms of, so we have an idea of what they, yeah.
Does that mean we're developing a plan for how to communicate items of high interest from city committees and the council? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. Is that what you were
Okay.
thinking, Sandrine?
Yeah, I guess this came up in our subcommittee when we were trying to think of what to prioritize in terms of communicating with the public. What are really our priorities? So communicating between committees could be helpful.
I keep wanting to scroll your screen. It's like my mouse just keeps going there trying to move it.
Yeah, sorry. Let me know if you want to move around.
Yeah.
So this is the end, but I believe, is it possible to make more boxes? Jeremy, is that okay? Okay. So I can just copy and we can make more. I think hopefully this will work. Let's see. There you go. I'll count this number 5, number 6. Was there anything from the economic committee that, I forgot your acronym, but the other subcommittee, if they wanted to add anything?
Oh, go ahead, Ross.
This is not so much from the committee, but just sort of my observation. Over the time we've been in Albany, there's always been a huge attention to accessibility in the physical world. From ad hoc groups like Albany Strollers and Rollers to a sidewalk tax, where the city is saying accessibility is important to us in the physical world. I would love to see that expressed by the city for the digital world. So maybe as an aspirational goal to have this committee inspire the council, inspire the city to have a similarly broad advocacy for digital accessibility. Over the time I've been here, AUSD dropped all of its continuing ed programs for budget reasons, for obvious ones, even though there are more resources available if you're online, say, from lots of other sources. So having the city say, we particularly want to basically build those digital sidewalks where they don't exist for people who haven't got access, or people who may have access don't yet know how to use it. So I'd like to see us raise that theme with the city as, you know, are we as digitally accessible as we are to walkers, bikers, people who would like, you know, we're going to make over Solano, I believe, majorly as pedestrian mall. I'm not seeing a similar attention to digital as an issue in the city.
Yeah, I totally agree. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I guess the other two things that have come up, sort of been mentioned, are one, working with the school district, and I don't know how we fit that into these, but that's another issue. And then the other one was the businesses, since one of the things for this strategic plan is about, isn't it about, let's see, it says something about businesses, I think. Or economic development and the arts. Oh, I see. So it's the film, right now the Film Fest hasn't, but what remember Stapleton Gray was talking about earlier about what was that city that you mentioned?
Oh, it was Coachella Unified School District and the city.
Yeah, so that might actually work under the digital accessibility too. It could be like a subheading of that, of how do we promote it? And one way would be to work with the school district to promote digital accessibility and working with businesses.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like those are the two parts of the strategic plan, is engaging our diverse community, and then the economic development. Oh, and facilitate government accountability. Well, that would fit in with the whole, with the one of the earlier ones, which was about connecting to different city bodies.
Right. In this one, what did you just say about connecting between city bodies? Sorry, I missed that.
That was, whose was that? Who mentioned that?
I think I mentioned this one.
Oh.
But I didn't catch your comment just now about regarding communication between city bodies.
Oh, I was thinking it might fit in with the strategic plan item about a government accountability. Facilitate government accountability is this is listed on that back page, relation to city council strategic plan, broadcast and live stream, but that's letting people know what's going on. But it could be bigger than that, not just telling them, not just sending them an email. Oh, and then I guess the other thing is and maybe this fits in, can you scroll back to number 1? I think it was, yeah, printed media. So that would, I guess that could fall under the adding kiosks, more kiosks to Solano and maybe other places in Albany. So that if we do use printed media, that would be one way of getting the media out there. And maybe other ways of communicating, not just digitally or printed, but like I know, Jeremy, you've talked about like, well, it is digital, but digital signage, you know, messaging, that kind of thing. I don't know where that would fall under.
Do you want to separate printed media from digital signage, or do you want to make a sort of an umbrella for whatever the alternate is to just a bunch of emails?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what you meant though by digital signage was like digital, but on physical screens, like iPads in a business window, right?
Yeah,
Right.
we have a digital signage system that we use for our TV channel and for city facilities. That could be expanded with more information and more content. And, it's just a screen and a transmitter player that connects to the internet. So that could be at key locations. It could be in the library. It could be outside. It could be in businesses. It could be in restaurants. Um, it could be on a big sign, outside, of buildings. It's there's lots of different options for digital signage. Um, Another thing that cities use is that for like wayfinding around the city. So, but I don't know if the community wants, large signs that produce, light, throughout, there's a lot of conversations around that, but this would be the community to talk about that.
Okay, yeah, and they could act as street lights since we don't have any. So, so maybe instead of printed media, it would be or slash non-digital.
Or physical outreach.
Well, you could do another category for digital signage, something like expand the city's use of digital signage to additional locations, something like that.
Okay.
Well, either way is.
I guess that fits here. Expand, right? Do we want a separate item just for digital? Actually, that does connect to our other. We did want to mention a new position, right?
Yes.
Proposal for maybe using the funds from the sugar tax.
Right, fat chance, but
So
Yeah. That would be. So we have had a part-time public information officer in the past, but when that staff left last year, the duties kind of were dispersed. And really the public information officer has been more for emergency communications as opposed to ongoing communications. So there may be some usefulness for kind of connecting that with a communications plan for the city, or addressing the issue of the public information officer. This committee could weigh in on that.
okay, yeah, why not?
Naomi's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry, I can't see everybody.
I can't see anyone else. Oh, there
Yeah.
we are. Sorry.
Okay, say, go. Sorry, I just can't
Okay.
see everybody because of the screen sharing.
Yeah. I'm still just obsessed with the idea of who's doing. There's an information officer, but then how's the information getting to the information officer? Who's going to decide what kind of information is? There needs to be some sort of information hub and an information. It's got to be a little bit. We've really got to think this through. That's
Right.
what I'm saying. And then maybe instead of separating it out into print media and digital, maybe just alternate, promotion of alternate ways of communication, and then bullet list those, just so the list we give them isn't, 20 pages long of types of information output. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think just getting everything down, and then we can definitely, I think, combining, I think that's a really good idea. And we could put what you just said in wherever it is under the digital, I keep forgetting what they're called, public information officer, that I don't know if it would be under pros or cons or just comments, that it's critical that we know where they're getting the information, what information it is and where it's going. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, I'm saying that, and I'm seeing all these different great ideas come out, like, what are all the different committees doing, important information from that, and important community information, that bulletins that need to get out, and I don't know what all kind of information is going to go out, but that's probably all different kinds of information that need to be gathered in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the funnel that they go through? I don't even know how to say it. It sounds
Yeah.
complicated.
No, it's a really good
It
point.
sounds really complicated, but it's important.
There's a couple things. Maybe you can make some recommendations on how that can happen within city staff, right, or advisory bodies. For example, a meeting chair could be required to submit to the staff liaison a 2 or 3 sentence
Yeah.
description on a regular basis. It could be something very specific like that, or perhaps on the community side that doesn't involve the city, maybe it's establishing a volunteer group that's outside of the city that can do some of that work more fleet-footed than giving it to a city staff person. How do you develop the mechanism for a volunteer group to share information, and what would that look like? That's something that doesn't have to involve the city, but where the city is publishing regular information to a certain place, and then those volunteers could get that and somehow do it. I think that's kind of what you're speaking towards is one, figuring out a good process that works with the city but is not reliant on the city, and then also secondary or even more important is who writes it, how well it's written, how clear the information is, and how accurate it is, because you don't want to create
Exactly.
somebody's biased opinion as opposed to the actual
Right.
information.
Well, and then if it's a city message, who's speaking for the city?
Then that would be the city, and that may not be what the community wants to hear as the city's message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's more complicated.
Yeah, I agree it's complicated, but I also agree with you that it's really important. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Both those things.
yeah, I totally agree. So once we get all these things down here, we can all, Jeremy, am I right that we could all work on this and then send our thoughts to you, so that we're not feeling like tonight in the next, I don't know what time it is, but in the next 14 minutes that we have to be done, that we take this document and member DeMatthew can send it to you, and then you can send it out to all of us. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things. Yes, you can all. Everybody should have access to this document, and so I've already added in Jack's and Naomi's additions. In terms of, you can send me email thoughts about this if you want to articulate some more details. And then what I would do is I would format into the actual work plan. That would be an abbreviated work plan, but I think the subcommittees, as the committee looks at subcommittees, the subcommittees would be divided on these different aspects of the work plan, and to come up with concrete solutions that would be done after the council approves it. So think about these items as what the committee is going to do. The committee will work on these, coming up with a plan to implement, to recommend to council how to implement these, and the subcommittees will work on the nuts and bolts, kind of on their own or in conjunction with city staff or other advisory bodies if it pertains to economic development or climate action plan or transportation, school district, etc.
So if you send this out to us and we have some ideas about maybe compressing it, organizing it in a different way, like Naomi was suggesting, would we see what other people, is there a way we could see what other people had suggested before we next meet, so that we have an idea?
This document is available for everybody to make edits. This is a sort of a worksheet.
Right.
So obviously, if you do work in this worksheet, do not talk about items together, but everybody can put their information in there.
Okay.
And it updates live too. I don't know if your maybe your videos are blocking. Do you see my mouse on the right side? If you can see that Jeremy is on it right now and he's making live edits while I'm editing. So you don't have to worry about mailing it, or different versions not updating, because everyone is seeing the same thing and it's updating as we go. Does that make sense?
Yes, I didn't realize Yeah, I thought it was, so it's like a Google Doc, sort of.
Correct.
Exactly. It's basically a Google Doc, and you all have it right now in this sorry, is this okay that I'm showing the email?
Yeah.
It's in this email that we got on April 22nd. So it's on the, if you download it, you can see. Oh, actually, you know
Yeah,
what?
it's in the other
On
one.
the
This,
body. of the
It's
email.
another one. I'm sorry.
it's the other one that I sent. This is
Okay.
this is the worksheet to work in.
Never mind. Sorry, but a more recent email we all have
Right.
this exact one. So you could go on right now and you would see all these updates. I wouldn't have to email this to you.
Correct.
You already have this.
Okay, I didn't realize I didn't realize that. So it was a link that we got because I just downloaded it. So I didn't pay attention, I guess, to where I got it.
Correct. Yeah.
So do we have to sign in to be able to make additions, or it automatically
No.
recognizes us, or the link is the what gets?
The
Yeah.
link will get you in. Yeah.
Okay,
Just through your email. You're already signed in automatically.
great, wonderful.
So I have a question. So how do we propose changes to whole categories? I think I'm agreeing with Naomi that we have a lot of individual items in some of these goals that could be combined under one type of heading. And I'm thinking the charge that we got from the city council to expand what CMAC does regarding community communication between the city and the city committees. A lot of those are involved in some of these individual items. So I'm wondering how do we put that, if we're writing in our comments, how do we say we want to combine this one with that one or whatever?
Is it possible, in a Google Doc, you can set it to, instead of editing, you can change it to suggesting? So then.
Yeah, I would be leery of doing any of that because of the Brown Act, because that essentially would be a communication. It'd be
Right.
like a serial meeting. So you have access to this, and I would suggest just dropping the information in there, and then at the next public meeting, either go through that, or I can consolidate it into a draft work plan, the actual document, and then we could we could do that at that point at the next meeting.
Or we could, oh, can I speak?
Yes.
Yeah. We could just copy and paste. If we have a proposed new box, we can copy and paste an old box and just say proposed new arrangement,
Sure.
and then
That'd be
it's
fine.
going to be clear.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah. I can't see everybody, so let me just go down.
I understand.
All right, so Member Newton, did you have any thoughts or comments? We haven't, and same with you, Member Stapleton Gray. Anything you want to, either one of you wants to add or say or comment on?
I've commented previously. I'd love to see the city sort of adopt a digital Albany sort of status, but we can recommend ways they might build towards that. I think is my contribution.
Okay, all right, and Member Newton?
I just want to say that I'm very impressed with the activities that have taken place this evening or this meeting, and I look forward to working with all of you. And again, I look forward to meeting you.
Welcome.
Great. Yeah, maybe someday we'll be in person. All right, any other comments about the work plan? I really didn't think that we would do.
We also do need to take public comment if there is any.
Oh, right, okay. Forgot, it's not written into my agenda. Public comment on the work plan on item 6 on the agenda.
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
But we actually have people attending the meeting.
We do have one. Yeah.
Oh, I might know who that one is.
That person might be downstairs at your house or upstairs.
No, I'm downstairs. I think he's that community member may be upstairs at my house. Yeah. All right. So, okay. And future agenda items. And this is where we were going to talk about, a special meeting in May. that would be one thing. And any other future agenda items? Besides the work plan, yeah.
Julie, you mentioned the soda tax. Is there a timing on that we could meet and talk about that issue before they make a decision?
I think they're making the decision. Is it next Monday, Jeremy? Or is it 2 weeks later?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Wow. I mean, that it's definitely a long shot, but I mean, it's our
Well,
money.
if the timing works where we can have it on our agenda and prior to the council decision, I would like to have that as a future agenda item.
Okay. And we can't talk about it tonight because it's not on the agenda, right?
Correct.
Right.
Can't move that we can't just, it's related to what we're talking about, but not related enough.
If it doesn't coincide with the meeting, any member of the advisory body can go to the next council meeting and talk, not on behalf of the committee, but mention that the committee would like to consider, some general language about the committee would like to consider this.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I just have a feeling it's coming up sooner than our next meeting, Jack, but I'm not positive. I know that they've been gathering suggestions from all of the city bodies. Nobody asked us, right, Jeremy? All right.
We did get that new charge from the city council
Yeah.
on communication, so that should be a reason to ask for it.
Yeah, I agree. Jeremy, do you have any idea of what the budget would be? Is that something we can't talk about right now? Is there some way we could find out?
For a public information officer?
Yeah.
I could get back to you with that information, what it would take to.
So we have an idea of what kind of funds we're talking about. It could be just like a part-time person. Okay. Any other future agenda items? I mean, obviously the work plan is on our future agenda.
I guess this isn't future agenda, but are we planning on making another emergency meeting?
Right. So how do we do that?
You
Yeah.
said?
Yeah. You're muted.
If we're past the future agenda items, then we're looking at planning. The next regular meeting is July of 2021. So if you want to schedule a special meeting, I'd recommend looking at the fourth Monday in May. That way the work plan could be finished. And I think the city council is expecting a final work plan from the committee to be presented in June, likely the second meeting of June.
Okay, so the fourth Monday, not because it looks like there are 5 Mondays in May. 1, 2, 3.
One of them's Memorial Day.
Yeah, the 5th Monday would be, okay, so the 4th Monday would be the 24th. Does that work with the city schedule?
It would, because nothing is scheduled on the fourth Monday at this point.
Okay. So how do we do that? Do we have somebody make a motion that we have a special meeting on the 24th of May?
What you can do is poll the committee to see if everybody is available. I don't think we don't have to be there's not a meeting. We don't need to do the chair can call a special meeting, but perhaps you want to have a conversation for what that would be like and see if people are available on that day and time, and whether or not the time should be adjusted from the regular meeting time of 6 to an earlier time or a later time, depending on likely the work plan will be the primary focus, but if there's anything else, determine how long the meeting would need to be.
Okay. Discussion. Are people available on Monday, the 24th of May? Yes. Yes. Oh,
I am only available between 5:15 and before 7. Would that be enough time?
it should be, right? 5:15. I mean, tonight been meeting for an hour and a half, and that's an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just,
Okay.
Well,
So-
the first half hour of the meeting was subcommittee reports. If it's primarily just to look at the work plan, it looks like you could probably get that done within an hour. If everybody is able to do their homework, or the subcommittees are able to flesh out some of the details over this next 2 or 3 weeks.
Great.
okay.
Wait.
And anybody else? Is anybody not available that night? Member Newton? You're muted. You're on mute.
I'm not sure yet, but as soon as I can, I'll be happy. You can sign me in, and if there's something that comes up, go ahead and put me in.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
we can't ask Member Lewis because he's not here yet.
Yes, Chair Winkelstein, what time will we start?
5:15 is what I was just fitting it in with Vice Chair Matthews' schedule. We could start at 5:30 if that would be better for people. It doesn't matter to me.
Earlier the better, I suggest.
Okay, I think so too. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that Member Lewis is going to be done with his teaching by then. I think he has 2 more weeks after this. So hopefully he'll be available. We can check with him. All right. And then, so we'll do it 5:15 to 7 p.m. That sounds good. Okay. So we don't have to, so now what do I do? Oh, so I call a special meeting and I don't have to, okay. All right. Right. I will get the hang of this in about a year.
You and I can work out the details of that offline, and then we can send out the notification in these next couple weeks.
All right. Okay. And is that it? Any other comments before we adjourn? I was just thinking that what are we gonna do when we're in person? You won't be able to say to people, "You're muted," and mute yourself, or we'll just be like talking. It's just all the things we've adjusted to over the last year.
Well, just so you know, at the dais in the city council chambers, there's a foot mute button for if public comment gets out of hand. That you
Really?
can, yeah.
Oh,
So the chair or the mayor or whoever sits in that position has the ultimate control. There's no trapdoor in the council chambers, but there is a mic mute.
oh, that's great. I during the presidential debates, I kept wishing there was a foot mute several times. So that's great to hear. Good. Thank you for letting us in on that secret. And now only one member of the public knows. All right. So thank you, everyone. It was a great meeting. And I guess we'll be talking in subcommittees, and Jeremy and I will communicate about the next meeting. So the meeting is adjourned.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye all.
So long.
Bye.